Welcome back, everybody. This is Khara with two of my amazing colleagues as we talk further about the therapeutic experience and how to do this well, hopefully. Today, we have a lot on our minds around knowing our worth. It's coming up with our supervisees, our consultees, and of course, for ourselves as entrepreneurs. So I want to welcome Alex and Liliana. Thanks for being here again.
Thanks for having us again. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah, we always have fun with these conversations. So I want to kick us off by saying that I'm thinking about this a lot from a therapy and financial therapy lens, which is a whole different video that will probably come out at another time. But for today, we're going to touch on three things so that our audience is aware. We're going to touch on scarcity, noble poverty, and those factors of knowing your worth. So three different areas to cover. Hopefully those will get the juices flowing. I'm going to hand it off to Alex to start us off with scarcity.
Yeah, scarcity. So I would like to approach it from two frames. First of all, professionally, and then personally, because again, we cannot dismiss our humanness within the field. We are still, even though we are functioning in a professional world, in a professional world and professional role, we have to be mindful that we cannot dismiss our humanness. So it will be whatever we don't deal with in our personal life will eventually bleed into our professional life. And so one of the key points that I want to bring forth is scarcity, especially, when it comes up professionally. Scarcity can show up as I don't have enough financially. I don't have enough, if we're looking at numbers, I'm never at a worthy number. I'm never at a worthy amount when it comes around money. It's always lacking. And a lot of times when we are starting our private practice or we're starting into the business, we have a clear definition of failure, and we don't have a clear definition of what success is. And if we are successful, we are not seeing it because it's not enough. It's still, there's always something more we can be doing, something more something else we can do, contract to bring more income, to diversify the incomes that are coming in. And so when we realize it, we have so much to offer, but not enough, let's say clinicians, not enough. And so when we start hearing, we focus a lot on the not enough, rather than what we do have and how are we being successful. We start allowing scarcity to take the microphone as professionals. Mm-hmm. Scarcity in regards to time, scarcity in regards to money, scarcity in regards to services. You start realizing not enough. And we start allowing that to feed that other personal part of ourselves. Like, okay, so that because we don't have enough income, we don't have enough clients, we don't have enough, whatever it may be that shows up in the professional realm starts bleeding into I'm not enough. Mm-hmm. Because because I'm not doing enough, therefore I am not being successful. And the opposite of success is then failure. And then we start downloading and integrating that in our psyche and have emotional reactions, charged reactions. We get stuck in our crazy eights, the term I use, where we overwhelm ourselves with our thoughts. I mean, we overanalyze things, and because we overanalyze, we overwhelm ourselves emotionally. And then because we're overwhelmed emotionally, we continue to overanalyze, and we're stuck in this crazy eight that puts us in a charged position. And then we are we're allowing inner saboteur to kick in. Mm-hmm. We are being hypersensitive, hyper vigilant, hypercritical, and we start really beating up on ourselves because of scarcity. We have allowed scarcity to kick in. And one of the things, that I talk about, and I'm coming from a personal experience. I'm like, and you guys know me, it's like I've been working through this, and it still sneaks up on you. And one of the things that I've learned when scarcity does come up is to distract with fact. Mm-hmm. Distract with fact. Okay, what is fact? How have I been successful? What have I dedicated time to, and how have I been able to turn it around? And so then when scarcity comes up, I can say, okay, this is a fear. This is, or this is something from my past. It's this anxiety, this emotion is coming from my past, and I can confront it, lean into it, sit with it and challenge it with how I've been successful.
Right.
And
evidence. I love that.
Yeah, and so when you distract with fact and reframe, instead of focusing on how I'm failing or how I'm, how I'm not achieving certain things, I'm like, what am I doing in the here and now that will lead toward that success? Number one. Number two, what different do I have? What's something different I have to do to lead towards that success? And number three, what have I done? Does that make sense? So who I was, what I've done in the past, who I am and what I'm doing, and the steps I'm taking for the future.
Right.
And it brings a sense of balance, and you're able to challenge that scarcity on a professional level, and it triples down to a personal level as well.
Absolutely. So if our audience was wondering what scarcity looks like behaviorally, right? So we're talking about in the mind, this is what might show up, here are some of those thoughts. But behaviorally, what does scarcity look like for both of you when it comes to watching your supervisees go through this, or maybe a younger self? How did this show up in your behavior?
I think for me, it was like taking too much, saying, not being able to say no, being say yes, 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 yes. Why? Because I'm afraid if I'm not going to have enough, or I'm afraid that I'm not going to, it's this fear of not having enough or not. And so therefore I'm saying yes, yes to secure, just to make sure. And so I can't set appropriate boundaries or limits around clients and be able to cut off and say no. Yeah. That's how it shows up professionally.
I think with supervisees, what I'm noticing is that, and understandably, right, is the idea that I have to get all the hours. I have to take all these clients. I have to work whenever, right? And it's the fear of, if I don't do this, I am not going to have those hours. If I don't do this, I'm going to fail. So that's the theme that I'm seeing. And part of it is because of the setup that they have.
Right.
I agree with Alex. For me, was like, I have to do this. I have to do this. And then coming from a culture where you are just programmed to work and never see your worth and never see what you have, always focusing on what you don't have. So yes, yes, yes on everything that they were giving me, even though it was exhausting.
Right. The boundaries. I'm thinking of, like, for all of us, I don't know if this is true for both of you, but okay, I'm working my lunch because I need to take on more clients, or now I'm working my days off because I just feel like I have to do something. Otherwise, I'm not going to get paid or not have enough. That scarcity shows up that way. I know this is true through the pandemic as well, that people have like forgone their lunches, they're working weekends, they're saying yes to clients that aren't even a good fit because there's just such demand. And so I'm seeing you both nod and going, no, I think this is pretty measurable, what scarcity shows up like in our field right now. So for the second element, the second part of this trifecta, if you will, is the noble poverty portion. And so Liliana, you mentioned culture, and I think there's a cultural element to therapists as well, or the mental health profession. And so noble poverty, for viewers who haven't heard this term before, unfortunately, therapists are a big percentage of who subscribe to noble poverty. Whether it's conscious or subconscious, it's the idea that we don't advocate for our own financial stability to help others, right? So maybe now we have a client who hasn't paid their bill. And so we're just saying, I'm not going to have that conversation. I want to do this well. I don't want this to be awkward. So I'm not going to say anything. They owe me $500, not going there because we don't want to be in a collector role, right? Mm-hmm. Or maybe it's a client who's like, oh man, your rate's this and I can only afford this much. And so maybe we're now offering them a sliding scale or reduced rate when normally that doesn't put bread on our table or help us pay our own student loans, things like that. So noble poverty examples also exist in the nonprofit world, which Alex, I know you're a part of this as well. Liliana and I came from nonprofit structure that we're always working at less than our worth because we have to, or we're told, riches is bad or greed is evil, or, oh, we don't want to be seen as greedy, I guess, for lack of a better word. So if this resonates for any of you listening or watching this video, it could show up as, I'm not going to have a conversation about money because I just don't want to go there. Or I'm never going to ask what I'm worth because the industry is never going to pay me what I'm worth. You think of insurance panels, stuff like that. So what are your thoughts for both of you on this idea?
I think a step further, right? This system, the school, the education is setting us up to think that way too. Like you're doing this because you want to help. You have to sacrifice yourself. You are here for service. You have to be available 24/7. So on and so forth. So that's like part of that noble poverty that this field is tied to.
Mm-hmm. Yep. It's like we don't even know it's a bad thing until we have our eyes open going, oh my gosh, we've been doing this our whole academic and therapeutic life.
Yeah.
And I think one of the things, I'm one of the individual culturally, I was raised to always give, always give, always give. It's better to give than receive. And so that's become part of who I am. I love to give. I have a giving heart, and hence the reason I started the nonprofit and because I want to give back. However, one of the things that really helped me is understanding what it means to give, but also to invest in yourself, invest in your mental health, you invested time and energy as professionals. We invest time and energy to be able to give, but we also have to be mindful that we have to teach others to invest in themselves as well. The way we've invested in ourselves to be able to give, we can teach others to invest in their mental health, to invest in their well-being. And what does that look like? Well, it looks like you need to invest in treatment. And if this is not where they're at, what are some resources I can connect them to and give? There we go. We can continue giving resources, giving so that they can get the help that they need without compromising and feeling bad for us having a boundary and investing in ourselves as well. Does that make sense? And so being okay with, again, not to get ahead, with your self-worth, like this is my worth and this is how hard I've worked, that to a certain extent, this is as far as I can go. I can take a pro bono or 2 pro bono clients, but I'm not going to cross that boundary, but I will have resources so that they can continue the investment within themselves. And some clients are like, I can't pay that amount, but I can pay this amount. And then that's where I'm like, okay, if you can't work specifically with me, let me refer you to a counseling agency that can serve you according to your need as well. Does that make sense? And be able to connect them accordingly. And you don't have to carry guilt and shame because you know your worth, because you were able to connect a client to the appropriate resources so that they can continue investing in themselves.
Absolutely. Which segues nicely into knowing our worth, which Liliana, I know you have some thoughts on, so maybe we'll start here.
We're done. That's all it. No, we keep hearing the phrase, right? Knowing your worth. And we have amazing people writing books and teaching us, TED Talks, presentations, so on and so forth. But if we come from families where that was not a template, if we were not in families where they show us what empowerment and worthiness look like, then we're not going to know what that feels like, what that looks like, and therefore we're going to be searching and thinking like what else that we have to do. We go back to noble poverty and we go back to scarcity, right? We just don't know. So knowing your worth, what it means, and we're going to try to break it down, is what is it that you bring to the table? First of all, by just being you, that's a lot. Each one of us have a set of skills that it will help anyone in any given circumstance. So just you already are worth that and more. But when you think about your education, check, that's another thing. You have a master's degree right now, right? Like you have all these trainings, all these certifications, your name and all these initials after your name. That means something. And we're laughing because like, yes, we have so many initials after our names. What are you reading? Like that is a wealth of knowledge. What consultations are you a part of? What supervision are you taking? What management skills that you've been bringing? We don't think about those things. When people tell me like, I would used to be a stay-at-home mom, I was like, man, that's a lot of skills there. Let's link them into this field. And what is it that you can bring here? And, your experience. What is it that you learn along the way? All of that, just to mention a few, bring up everything that you are worth and everything that you should be charging for. Mm-hmm. So coming back to, this is such a difficult topic because when we went to school, they didn't talk about and normalize money. They didn't talk about and normalize the shame that we have for choosing a career that everyone is telling us we're doing it for the love, not for the money. I don't know about all of you, but I still have to pay rent. I still have to pay utilities. I still have to put my kids through college. I still love my coffee. So then we need that money in order to come back and do what we love and not resent our clients because of it. So Alex and Khara are talking about we don't have to take all the clients. We have to know what our time is worth because of what I'm bringing into the session or what I'm bringing into consultation in order for me to know this is what I earn, this is what I deserve. And if it does not work for you, as Alex mentioned, that's okay. Let me refer you to someone else. Right. Not because they deserve less, but because they're willing to have a different set of boundaries.
Mm-hmm. And I love this word investment. That's the word that's sticking in my head, is like, we're investing in ourselves, the client's investing in the process. So are they investing in the work with us or with someone else? Like, that's where scarcity can be challenged. Of like, there's plenty of people they can work with. It doesn't have to be us, but to break or bend those boundaries repeatedly would, I think, then create the resentment you're talking about.
Yes. Yes.
And I wanna also add on, especially with piggyback on that, the word investment. We all, especially with clinicians coming into the field, I think there's a misconstrued idea that the minute I graduate with my master's degree, I'm going to make big bucks and I'm gonna, go off to the races. And it's like, okay, there needs to be first an investment. And you now got the theory, you got the foundation. Now let's build up. It's built up from our foundation, which is our master's degree. How am I going to build up from there to become who I am? And so that requires investment. Investment in clinicians, investment in community-based organization, investment in reading, investment in training, investment in redirection, and be open to redirection, investment in the learning process. I'm going to make mistakes and be graceful, and learning how to be graceful with yourself and invest in yourself emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually. Invest as you are becoming that clinician that you want to achieve. So we all, and part of that investment is going through the process and quote unquote paying your dues. Does that make sense? Yeah. Going through supervision and modifying your schedule to you're making an investment. Maybe you're not socially, you're not doing a lot of things socially because right now you're investing in yourself. And understand that at the end of the day, when you do achieve and where you're at, you can proudly do it because you made that investment in yourself.
Mm-hmm. But hopefully by talking about this now, people are going to have this knowledge that we learned the hard way, which is we did the hustle and we did it for so many years and then we burnt out and now we're setting the boundaries. Maybe that's the gift we can give our viewers today is, okay, we're talking about this so you can start chewing on it. There's no one way to do this, but maybe it's not about getting burnt out and then creating the boundaries. Maybe it's about investing in yourself now.
Right.
Yeah. So then this is our gift to all of you who are watching this, right? You don't have to reinvent the wheel. We are giving you wisdom, we're giving you experience, and then you get to decide what you do with it.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. Well, awesome. Any last thoughts for our viewers when it comes to scarcity, noble poverty, or knowing your worth?
There's a lot of process involved. There's a lot of self-discovery here, right? I love that Alex keeps talking about this is part of our process. There's things that we can give you and then, knowledge. And then there's things that you have to learn on your own. However, you are worth whatever fee you decide it is. You get to decide what life balance looks like for you. And we're constantly evolving.
Mm-hmm.
And I would piggyback on what Liliana is saying is when we are going through a process, show up. Yeah. Show up and shine. Show up and shine. That is going to build a solid foundation for tomorrow. And you're paving the road not only for yourself, but for others that are going to either be under you or look up to you or can use the guidance and the experience that you went through. So just lean into it, show up, and just shine.
Absolutely. And none of the viewers have to have this figured out, right? If it's a process and we're talking about it now as we're a decade into our career plus, this is something that that's where supervision can come in, and consultation, and doing your own reading and your own work. And Liliana, something I wanted to circle back to briefly here at the end that you mentioned is like, what are we giving for this investment, right? So there's a book called Your Money or Your Life. And it really has the concept of, this is your life energy and this is your hourly wage, for example. How do these compute? How many hours does it take for you to have your life energy be taken from you? How much of this are you using in your hourly wage? So it was a really interesting way to look at this of like, does that reinforce a boundary of like, this is not worth so many hours, or this is worth it? So I recommend this book to anyone who wants to take a little bit of a deeper dive to be like, how does this compute? How does this really show up? It's not just numbers, it's experiences and your life energy.
Correct.
For sure. Well, I appreciate both of you. I appreciate being able to have this conversation. I know we always go for the heavy stuff of like, how do we help the community with these things? There's not a one-stop shop, but I know that our viewers will appreciate your insights, and I just look forward to more videos with you both. Thank you.
Thank you.